One of the most surprising pieces of criticism I've ever gotten surprised me. And it came from my uncle. And it had nothing to do with my talent or skill level or anything like that as a musician. And the surprising thing, he wondered about me doing music or trying to do music. He said to me, I just don't know if you're enough of an asshole to do music. But he said, perhaps that's something you should work on. And of course, I thought many things at first. I thought, well, okay, well, at least on the one hand, I'm not being told I suck as a musician. But, I also thought, well, maybe it's a good thing that I'm not an a hole or an asshole. But then again, maybe he has a point. I thought to myself, maybe he actually has a point in the sense that when we think about being a musician, all you get to learn about or come to realize as a musician is that indeed it's not really all about the people who have the most talent with the most natural gifts. It's the people who have the most dogged sense of asserting themselves. And very often, the people who can most easily and most doggedly assert themselves are the people who maybe have some, let's just say, unpalatable or not appealing aspects of their personality, which my uncle might characterize as being an asshole. And if I'm being honest here, if I'm being really honest here, very often there's a tendency to want to think of the musician as this sort of martyr slash person with a heart of gold. And that's absolutely true for a good portion of them. And I mean, when I say that about musicians, that means the ones who tend to be the ones who have the best intentions, the purest intentions, the ones who are there for the music. But it quickly gets a little bit complicated because there are people who have some purity of intention, but maybe not the purest intention. And then they have this really aggressive and really unpleasant way of getting themselves out there. And very often they are the ones who can kind of perpetuate themselves forward. And very often the person out there who can do such a thing can at first have this very nice veneer, like, oh, hey, yeah, oh, I love you and all this stuff. And you come to find out when you deal with them on any level of depth, they're completely full of shit. I've seen this many times. And hell, I've had musicians steal my stuff, literally walk out with my guitar and give me a whole cock and bull story about where my equipment went. But it's a whole other story. But relating back to myself, I'm thinking like, well, if in a weird way, I don't necessarily not identify with the sort of person who doggedly, persistently tries to put myself out there. But I feel like I've always tried to do so in such a way that I thought was respectful of other people, was considerate of other people, didn't step on toes for no reason. I think sometimes people just enjoy stepping on toes, even when there's really no gain or prize there. They just enjoy it. I've seen that too. I think to myself, don't I kind of constantly put myself out there, and aren't I constantly thinking in terms of like this gotta promote myself way? I mean, another person told me you have to be more me. And I'm thinking, well, aren't I kind of already a little bit have a shade of that in some form? I've made like over 1,000 TikTok videos. I've done over 1,000 performances. I mean, I think I've done this to some extent. Now, whether or not one refers to that sort of person as being an ASSHOLE is a different question. But there's always the dark side of the moon. Is that I want to tell you something, and this is like another self confession. Is that there's always a dark side of the moon. I think people may look at me sometimes and how I've got myself out there play shows don't seem to have all that much stage fright. That's one of the weird things. I wonder why I don't have that much of it. But like, I want to show you something. If a person out there says like this guy seems to have some ease of doing it, that may be relatively true, but it's not always easy. And there's always a feeling of like when I put myself out there, am I embarrassed by what I said when I put myself out there? Am I embarrassed by the emotions I showed in my performance? It's not always easy for me to. It's not always easy for me to say do this. It's not always easy. I can carry it off in a certain way to make it look easy, and it's not horribly difficult. But it's not always easy because there's always like, I have to do this again. I have to do this. You have to do it again. I have to do it again. And I just don't. Sometimes it's like I'm actually, despite how this may look, a pretty introverted person, and it's not always easy to kind of deal with the social aspects of the music thing and the music scenes as well. But there is one thing which I think is rather, I feel like I have this. I feel like I can be soft, but I think another thing about me as a musician is that I also think, I'll tell you something about my music is that even though it seems like progress has been very slow to get myself out there, maybe because I'm not the category 5 asshole I'm supposed to be. I feel like I do make progress because I love music and I do put myself out there. And if there's elements of things I don't always enjoy doing, I do it because I love it and I feel like it'll be good for the music in some form. And also, it's this: I don't easily give up. I really don't. And I can't even imagine giving up the idea of putting on music and trying to write songs and perform it, because it's like to this day I'm living and I have my singing and I feel like I've worked on my craft, and there's the sweetness of the rewards of watching that craft develop into something that I can increasingly live with and I enjoy doing and I don't mind listening back to entirely. Why would I give up now? I feel like that's really my doggedness. That's really my part of steel. Is I just can't imagine giving up. It doesn't even cross my mind really. Um, but even no matter what happens with the music, whether it's received on a smaller, more modest scale or larger, I feel like there's always a part of me which will do, and I don't give up. But it's not even a matter of like I'm proud of myself for not giving up. It's more like I don't think to give up because it's just I enjoy doing it. It's not always a matter of toughness. So anyway, to conclude all this, I just thought I would give a little talk about that because like really when he said that sort of thing to me some years back, I stuck with me and I thought about it like, am I this thing? Should I be this thing? Who out there might be kind of this thing? And what element could this be? How could this be foundational to people and having it benefit their work and getting it out there? It's something I've considered and I'm just sort of thinking a lot. This was a long video. Sorry.